is a presentation of ESPN on ABC.
If you build it, they will come. It worked for an Iowa cornfield in the sport of baseball, and from the looks of the thousands pouring into Iowa Speedway, it's working for the IndyCar Series as well. From early this morning, the parking lot has been like a scene from a football game. Tailgaters celebrating life in the Midwest. And for one driver, a special trophy at day's end. Iowa, the heart of Middle America. Not exactly known for the glitz and glamour of professional sports until today. The IndyCar Series fires up the heat and humidity this week in the Corn Belt, where open-wheel speed stirs up the edge of emotion.
Elio Castroneves is the leader. Big crash on the back straightaway. The 26th mark away and ready. She's in trouble.
He didn't have anything to say.
She's just being Danica.
He's all the way out on the main straightaway. 91st Indianapolis 500.
It's the inaugural race. Newton, Iowa is the place. We're live from the Iowa Speedway. The skies may be overcast, but the future could not be brighter as we welcome you to the 8th of 17 races. It's the Ethanol Indy 250 from the brand new Iowa Speedway, the inaugural running of this event. And the crowd is filing in. In fact, the traffic is just huge. The drivers, you may see a lot of smiles on their faces right now, but by day's end, after 250 laps in this bull ring, some of them are going to be gasping for air. We welcome you to Firestone Race Day, where we'll get you caught up on all the comings and goings of today's big race, the first one here for the IndyCar Series at the Iowa Speedway. Hello again, everybody. Marty Reed alongside with Scott Goodyear. And let's talk about this because the emotions have been running high for the last couple of races. And here we go into a 7/8 mile track, a bull ring.
Well, it is a bull ring, but you know something? This racetrack really races like a super speedway. It is a short oval, but there's going to be wheel-to-wheel racing here. You go into this banking, 12, 13, 14 degrees progressive banking, and this is a fast racetrack. All the drivers are saying the same thing. Wheel-to-wheel action here. No room for error at all today, Marty.
And we're going to talk a little bit later about the G-forces that these drivers are going to experience and why some of them may be gasping for air by the end of this race. But let's talk about Sam Hornish Jr., because it was just 2 weeks ago, our last stop at Texas, where he picked up his 19th career win and moved himself back into the points championship hunt. He is now 5th in the points, 27 back. As you take a look at Sam's record, he has had great success on the ovals. All 19 of his wins have come on the ovals, none on the road courses. Today is one of those opportunities he needs to seize because 4 of the final 9 races are going to be on the road courses. Let's take a look at our ethanol starting grid. As you see the drivers and the introductions being made, there's Dario Franchitti making his way around the track. Across the top of the screen, you'll see the ethanol grid with your favorite drivers, and you'll notice on the pole will be Scott Dixon as he edged out Elio Castroneves in oh so close a battle. And you're saying, wait a minute, I see Dario Franchitti and I see Scott Sharp, but where is Sam Hornish, one of the oval meisters? Well, he's going to start in the 8th position, and he's with Vince Welch right now.
Marty, no driver in the IndyCar Series has won more races on the short ovals than Sam Hornish Jr. And here we are today, Sam, on a track less than a mile in length. How would you characterize this racetrack in our first time here?
Well, it's a lot different than we expected it to be. When we came here, we'd heheard about the track, what it was going to be like. We thought it was going to be a lot like Richmond, maybe a place like Milwaukee, Phoenix, Pikes Peak, where, a lot of one-groove racing, hard to pass is just because you couldn't get there. When we got here, it's actually a lot more like Texas, a little bit harder to pass because you got to make the move to the outside if you're going to do it. So it's pretty much flat out, real fast racetrack. Key to today is really going to be getting in and out of the pits good, having good restarts, and also just not giving up that bottom line.
And having a track that's like Texas, guys, would bode pretty well for Sam Hornish Jr. He won last time out at Texas. Marty?
And finishing right behind him was Tony Kanaan. And in third, that lady right there, Danica Patrick, it was her career best finish, but she's still looking for that all-elusive first career win.
Deep down, she wants to be recognized as a winning race car driver first, and then a popular superstar second.
I came to AGR with expectations for sure, and I'm sure that they had theirs in me. So when people ask about the pressure maybe to go out there and win, I say that, yeah, there's more now.
There is Danica. Whoa, and she's in trouble. Hang on to it.
Weldon hit me. Weldon came down.
There's a lot of pressure on her, like I say, because she's not won a race.
It'd be very easy for us to let it destroy the team.
I went to AGRs because I want to win.
I really believe in her. I believe that she can get it done. You know, that's where the pressure is back on us. So we got to put her in the right situation, give her the right car to win.
Here comes Danica Patrick as she pulls to the rear wing of Tony Kanaan. A 3-horse race with 10 laps remaining in Texas.
She's willing to put in the hard work. And no, it's not going to be easy, but if she works hard, it'll happen.
I'll be disappointed if she doesn't win a race this year because I think we're capable. But if she doesn't, it's not necessarily going to be her fault.
And yet, like every other driver in this starting field, it's the first time out for Danica Patrick at this 7/8 of a mile bull ring. Danica, with the way this track is laid out, just how bold can you be in the race car?
I think you're going to have to be really bold. If you go high, the likelihood of being able to pass someone is just so low. It's just the long way around. The straights are very short here, and the corners are pretty long. So, unfortunately, I can only see, a little bit of passing happening, and that's usually going to be if somebody's tires fall off or something. So it's going to be a tough day, especially since I'm starting 11th.
Well, we saw her start even further back, guys, back in Milwaukee, and we saw what happened there.
Yeah, don't give up on this race. This is going to be very interesting to see how it unfolds. As we said, we've all been here now just for the first time. Let's take a look at the Iowa Speedway.
Marty, a premier facility here that Rusty Wallace designed, and it's a very fast racetrack as we're talking about for what we classify as a short track. 10-degree banking on the front stretch, 4-degree on the back. And look at this, 12, 13, and 14 of progressive banking all the way from the bottom up to the top. That's what drivers are saying. There's lots of grip at this racetrack itself, but I'll tell you something, it is very difficult to pass here. All the drivers have said that here for the last couple of days. Riding along now with Sam Hornish Jr. through turns 1 and 2, down to that low lane where it's about 12-degree banking back along the backstretch here, and they're flat out all the way around this circuit in through turns 3 and 4. And we've typically seen drivers trying to hug that yellow line, the shortest distance around here. Now let's watch the G-force meter here going into turn 1. Up 4.5 Gs, 4.6. And remember, there's going to be 250 laps around here. You do that twice per lap. There's going to be some tired drivers here when you're running flat out for this entire race at 180 miles an hour.
In fact, let's give you an idea of Danica Patrick's 100 pounds. 4.5 Gs means she would weigh about 450 pounds. No offense, Danica. Going through every corner 500 times. Remember, 2 every lap. Take a look at some other experiences that you could have with G-forces. If you've been on a roller coaster, you go down that first hill, you experience about 3 to 4, but that's only for a couple of seconds. And then at Indianapolis, we have 3.5 Gs in the corners. And here at Iowa, you can see up to 4.8 we've seen. And if you want to be a fighter jet pilot, then you better get a suit because you're going to go for 9. When we come back, we'll talk about the sophomore slump that Marco Andretti is in. It has been a dismal 2007. But we'll also take a look at some of the top moments of this year's IndyCar Series. Stay with us.
We're all in the same race. We all fight traffic. We all want high performance from our vehicles. This year, all competitors in the IndyCar Series are running on 100% fuel-grade ethanol. It's America's clean, green, renewable fuel. If ethanol gives top drivers all the power and performance they expect, it'll work for you too. Look for ethanol-enriched fuel at the pump. If you don't see it, ask your retailer. Ethanol, America's high-performance, renewable fuel.
How do I love you? Let me count the ways. I love our long and checkered past.
The checkered flag of victory. He's done it.
I love the way you look in the morning. I love your curves, your quirks. How do I love you? I love it when you get angry or sentimental. I love how you make people nervous and jittery. I love a long lip lock after a hard day's work. I love that ice-cold milk is your beverage of choice. I even love your crazy family. How do I love you? Oh, I can go on. I love all the tomorrows we've yet to enjoy. And I love how the offspring of our affection goes forth into the world, serving as proud testament to our union. That's how I love you.
The Ethanol IndyCar 250 at Iowa, brought to you by Ethanol, America's high-performance renewable fuel. Firestone, the first name in Indy racing. And GoDaddy.com, world's #1 .com provider. Make your name with us. Back here at Iowa Speedway, the flyover has just taken place as the ceremonies continue and the fans continue to pour into the grandstands. You know, we've seen a lot of verbal jabs taken this year in the IndyCar series. We've seen little elbow shoves. We've seen a lot of great moments in 2007.
Oh, we've got a spin. They had contact. It's just Marco swerving at me on the straight.
On a multiple car crash. And it looks like Elio Castroneves. Dan Weldon is involved as well.
Watch when I go straight. If I ever see your car again, I'm not reaching for this team anymore, ever.
Big crash down the back straightaway. One car upside down. It's the 26th car of Marco Andretti. Another car into the wall.
There is Danica. Oh, and she's in trouble. Hang on to it.
Weldon hit me. Weldon came down.
Maybe it's a little bit of inexperience on her part.
I'd like to brake check Weldon right now. Just rip his front wing off.
Did she shove you?
She's just being Danica.
He was being stubborn.
She's messing with the wrong person if she wants to get feisty, that's for sure, because I'm a lot tougher than she is on track.
It is raining now here in turn 4. It is starting to come down. It is starting to come down with some power.
Dario Franchitti is going to be the winner of the 91st Indianapolis 500-mile race.
And of course, Dario Franchitti has catapulted himself into the points lead off of that win at Indianapolis. Let's take a look at the top 5. In fact, actually the top 10. You can see it's 12 points back to his teammate Tony Kanaan, 19 to Scott Dixon. Dan Weldon is 20 markers back. Sam Hornish rounds out the top 5. In fact, Brianne Pettigo has caught up with the top 2 in points.
Thanks, Marty. It's been a great year for Dario Franchitti, winning the Indianapolis 500. You now sit on the top of the points chart. What's been the big difference for you this season?
Having a little bit of luck and having some quick cars. You know, last year I think we all did a good job as a team. We just didn't have a development budget to make the cars faster. And this year, you know, over the winter we made them quicker, and you're seeing the results. And you know, Tony and I running 1-2 in the championship just now. We're in the fight, but it's going to be hard though.
Well, just 12 points behind your good buddy here, Tony Kanaan. Can you describe for me what, oh my goodness, and we're being visited by Darren Manning. Can you describe what you're going to physically go through in the car today?
It's going to be tough. I think, you know, we tested here as a tire test, and in the last 2 days, the steering is extremely heavy. On the shoulders is going to be hard. So if we have a green... muscles. Yeah, well, like I said, I think if I'm going to get tired, for sure a lot of people will, but I have to say that it's going to be a tough race for us, and probably great for the fans if it goes green all the way.
Now, what do you think, if you're 12 points behind a good friend, does it change your desire to want to beat him because he's your good buddy?
No, I mean, it's not like beating him, because the championship, it's wide open. I mean, you still have 10 races to go. At 7 races, I don't even know how many races to go, so it's so early. I think he's being chased right now, and I've been in his position, so he has 18 other guys trying to get that spot too. So I'm going to try to help him out if I can in the race, and I think we got to keep doing what we're doing, and then we'll play until, you know, 2 races to go, 1 race to go. This championship is not going to end before the Chicago and the last race.
Marty.
All right, thanks, Brienne. And you know, we talked about Danica Patrick. Let's also talk about the fourth member of Andretti Green Racing. There he is, 20-year-old Marco Andretti. It has been an awful, awful season for him, his second time around.
Compared to last year, a little less nervous, a bit more confident. I think I'm going to have all the tools I need to be quick across the board, and you know, in every type of track.
It's Marco Andretti. Marco Andretti is in 19th. Not a good day so far. He is so slow out on the racetrack.
I do not know what's wrong, but it was undrivable. I've never been so scared in my life in an IndyCar.
Oh no, another crash, and it's upside down. It's Marco Andretti. For the third time this year, Marco Andretti has crashed.
What a bummer for the NYSC boys. Here we go again.
That puts Andretti a lap down.
In all the ovals races so far this year, he's either crashed or stepped out of the car because the car was too scary for him to drive.
Marco Andretti has called it a day.
Again, I mean, I'm scared to death. I couldn't tell you the problem. I really couldn't.
It's just been a disappointing sophomore season for Marco Andretti. It's not good. All right, let's bring Scott Goodyear back in. You've been in a slump, but this is a disaster.
You know, he won a race last year in his rookie season, 19 years of age. He's got a lot of road course background, but you also have to remember that there's a lot of pressure on Andretti because of his famous last name. I remember Michael saying before that when he was driving, I didn't feel that pressure of an Andretti name. But you know something, now he's been retired. He has said a few times in the media, yeah, I felt it a little bit. I think Marco is certainly feeling that right now. He wants to win. He's not finished an oval race so far this year. A lot of pressure on him here just to complete this race, Marty.
And he's going to start 12th today. That's going to conclude this edition of Firestone Race Day. We thank you for joining us as we get ready. When we come back, it'll be time for the command to start engines, and we'll go green here at Iowa Speedway. We'll be back after this message and a word from our ABC station. Welcome back to Iowa Speedway. It's race 8 of 17, the Ethanol Indy 250, and it is time for those famous words as we send you trackside. The drivers are ready, the crews are ready, the 40,000 are in attendance are ready. Let's hear those famous words.
And now for the most famous words in motorsports. Here's the chairman of the Iowa Corn Promotion Board, Kyle Phillips, and four-time Indy 500 champion A.J. Foyt.
Girls and boys, start your engines!
Scott Dixon starts on the pole here today, and he was as surprised as anyone that he earned the top qualifying position. He had struggled a bit at times during practice, but his engineer Eric Bretzman hit the setup perfectly during qualifying. You'll notice on the right side of Dixon's helmet there's an additional pad, that black pad next to the blue, between the blue and his helmet. That has been installed because of the rigors that the drivers face during the course of this race day. He said that gives his head a little more support, will help him from getting fatigued during the course of the race. Marty?
All right, thanks, Vince. And let's once again show you the starting grid at the top of your screen, presented by Ethanol. Pick out your favorite driver. As we have mentioned G-forces before, they are going to experience an awful lot of stress in their body as they begin to roll off.
Absolutely, Marty. Remember that this is for 250 laps around here, 2 hours at 180 miles an hour. There's no brakes here. I spoke to Jeff Simmons, and he said, you know something, just running 40 or 50 laps at a go has been difficult. Remember, if you make a mistake here, Marty, you don't go to the penalty box. You go for a visit to the hospital.
All right, let's take a look at how the IndyCar series has changed, and we're talking about physical fitness, especially because of the demands at a track like this at the speeds that we're going at over 180 miles an hour. Take a look at the average age of the drivers in the field today. Bottom of your screen, 26. Just 10 years ago, the average age was 39. 20 years ago, the average age was 44. So it has definitely become a young man's and young women's game, Scott.
And the most important thing is to get to the end of this event. I think things will change somewhere around lap 200 here. All the drivers say those last 50 laps are going to be very, very tough on us. We hope that we have the mental capability to keep ourselves on track.
All All right, let's take a look at our 6 onboards, and you'll have multiple views for you. Vitor Mirror on the top left. Across will be Sam Hornish, then Danica Patrick, Tony Kanaan, Jeff Simmons, and Ed Carpenter providing us with our 6 on-camera views. Take a look at this crowd. I mean, the traffic coming in here this morning was just unbelievable. The way they have turned out has been phenomenal. What a great way to start off the inaugural race here at Iowa Speedway. Let's talk about what to watch in today's race.
Well, we talked about the constant G-force and how physical fitness will play a part in this race. Tony Kanaan, he's one of the fittest guys here, but says, you know, I can feel it in the car itself. Passing and traffic. Danica Patrick mentioned that, you know something, passing here is tough. Traffic is going to be crucial to make sure you can get past the cars in front. Track position, I think Marty will play a big role in who's going to win here. 20 to go. You want to be up front. You're not going to be able to pass cars, as we mentioned. And because this is a new track, so many unknowns. The engineers I speak to say the same thing. We just have to wait to see how this is going to play out.
We've got overcast skies, no real chance of rain. We've had a lot of rain here the last couple of days. That should keep temperatures down. That may help the fatigue factor. Let's get a last-second report from Jackaroo.
Well, that fatigue factor may come into play for number 26, Marco Andretti, snake bit in his sophomore season. He woke up this morning with a nasal problem. He can't talk. He has difficulty breathing. They say you have to play hurt. Well, he's going to have to do that today, fellas.
All right, so as if things aren't bad enough for the 20-year-old, here he is going to be struggling with a physical condition. Sounds like nasal diphtheria almost, but I'm not a doctor, but certainly not comfortable. It'll be green next time by. In fact, the pace car has pulled off, so the field is now in the control of pole sitter, the blue number 9. That's right, the blue number 9, the special paint scheme for Scott Dixon. Elio Castroneves outside. They're into turns 3 and 4, and the inaugural running here at Iowa Speedway is green.
Green, green, green.
Got a crash in turn 2. Yellow is out. You can see it at the top of your screen. 2 cars involved. It is Dan Weldon. So Weldon involved, as well as it looks like one of the Vision cars. And I'm trying to see, it looks like the number 2 of Schechter. Yes, Thomas Schechter. So a tough break for Dan Weldon. Now remember, Weldon started 9th. Schechter started 14th.
And I spoke to Weldon's engineer this morning, Andy Brown. He says we just had the car a little bit too loose for him to be able to drive in qualifying. Now here you see the situation. It looks like Weldon has already started to go around. Thomas Schechter, the 2 car, the Vision car that you see there, had nowhere to go and ends up collecting into the side of the number 10 target machine. Now, as I was mentioning, Andy Brown, his engineer, said we missed the setup a little bit on qualifying, and that's why he was back in that starting row where he was. Usually he's a front row qualifying or a second row qualifying. In this situation here is a loss of points, and that's what he's thinking. You can see the head down, the disappointment.
Let's go back and take a look from Danica's onboard camera, and you can see her car getting very loose, we're told. Yeah,
now here's the start. Here's the starter. Well, that's the start. That is power down. Remember, no traction control here. You put your foot on the loud pedal, 650 horsepower. Off it, and up ahead, you can see the number 10 car. Weldon looks like the car was just too loose, guy, and the car starts to go around. Now, there he is. Bottom of your screen, we just saw the number 7 car, the Motorola car. Danica Patrick have her wiggle, trying to put the power down, and up in front of her right now.
And let's check in now with Vince Welch.
Here's Barry Wanzer, who is handling the strategy for Dan Weldon, just checking with a race official about whether they're taking the car directly to the garage. Barry, did you get any indication as to whether he may have run into some trouble prior to the spin?
No, he just got down in there and really just lost it. But, you know, he's really aggressive. He was trying to make up spots. It's going to be difficult to pass today, and we just unfortunately didn't make it through the first turn.
Tough way to start, guys. They'll take it to the garage and check and see if there's any possibility at all that repairs can be made.
All right, he came into this race 4th in the points. This will drop him at least 2 positions by our mathematical count. We're going to go side by side. We'll go green when we come back. All right, we're under our first caution here at Iowa Speedway, and here's the reason why. Keep an eye on the 10 car.
Number 10 machine, the target machine of Chip Ganassi's team, just goes up towards the wall. Dan Weldon just got loose going into the first turn on the first lap. Now we're aboard Vitor Mirror, and you can see the red car just a couple cars ahead. No one around him, no one hit him. The back end just comes around. That's what we call a loose condition, and something that Dan Weldon didn't want on the very first lap here when you're chasing a race win and a points championship.
Okay, we are still under yellow here in our first caution. We're going to step aside one more time. When we come back, we'll talk to the man who has been with us in the booth, but actually now he's a track designer. Let's check in with Brianne Pettigo.
You guys have caught up with a disappointed Thomas Scheckter. Thomas, can you tell us what happened out there?
I think Dan just lost it, and I sort of had nowhere to go, wrong position, wrong time. So, you know, it's unfortunate, but no, after the last 2 races, just try to be positive, get this Vision team, 2-car back rolling again, and get something a little bit better for Richmond.
Guys, Scott Dixon is coming in as we get ready to go green here. He's got a steering problem and says his steering is so tight that he cannot turn the wheel. That's why he has to come into the pit lane. He said there's no way he could restart.
So the 2 Target Ganassi cars are in serious trouble. One's already out of the race, and by the time he gets back out, he is going to be several laps down as we're back to green flag racing here on lap 13 of 250. So your race leader is Elio Castroneves, followed by Dario Franchitti, then Scott Sharp.
And the first lap around, Marty, already 175 miles an hour after the green flag. Look for this to be up over 180 next time around.
There's your top 3, 4, and there is Sam Hornish trying to get around the high side of Tony Kanaan. And he's side by side with him. Now remember, you can run flat everywhere on this racetrack, and that's been the problem. You have to go cover more ground the higher up you are on the track.
They say in that second groove up there, you're covering about another 125 to 150 feet extra per lap. Even though it may feel like you're going faster around that race circuit in that line, it's a longer way around.
You can see the vapor trails, the high humidity here coming off of the back wing of Tony Kanaan. As you see out the back, he is 5th, and that is Sam Hornish right behind him in 6th.
Now, flat out, you can hear there's no lift on the accelerator whatsoever from these cars when they're going around, and this is exactly what the drivers are going to be talking about with those high G-forces they're experiencing.
There's the 26 of Marco Andretti. We documented his troubles at the beginning of the broadcast. He's moved up 2 spots from 12th to 10th. Let's get more from Jack Arute.
Well, Marco Andretti, as we documented, has had a terrible sophomore season. So what did his team owner, Michael Andretti, his father, do? Took him aside and told Marco he needed to forget about the first part of the season, forget about the next part of the season, and concentrate on what made him so successful last season. He told his son, go out, get in the cockpit, and just have fun.
Got to get your confidence back, and that's easier said than done, that's for sure, Jack, as he continues to circulate on the track. And right now, his last lap time, about 17.8 seconds. And Scott Dixon, we're being told, is climbing out of the cockpit of the car. What a disastrous start to this race for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. Both cars out. Vince?
Guys, their crew chief, Ricky Davis, sprayed WD-40 in the steering area because Dixon said it was just getting tighter and tighter. But they told him that as they set the car down, test the steering, and he said it gets tight as I turn the wheel. He said, no way I'm going out there driving the car like this. They said, get out of the car.
Unbelievable.
In that situation there's probably something with the steering rack, which is now started to bind up. When you come to an oval track like this, you start to change the rack and pinion ratio on the steering, and drivers were looking for ways to make it a little bit easier on race day because of the forces in the car. The car is producing over 4,000 pounds of downforce, so no power steering on these cars, but they're changing the gear ratios in those steering columns to try to make it a little bit easier. That one there looks like maybe it just didn't work.
Well, as things have sort of settled down a little bit at least, Elio Castroneves leads Dario Franchitti and Scott Sharp. That's your top 3. We promised to bring in Rusty Wallace, the designer of this track. You're not wearing your TV hat, you're wearing your design hat. Great job here, guys.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. The fans here in Iowa were just going crazy. It's amazing. We've got packed facility here. They're lined up at Interstate 80 trying to get in, and it's a great feeling to have the track be this popular, Marty and Scott, and watch the racing right now. They're flat out around here, and looks like we're okay at the moment.
What was your concept? What was your thought process for the design of this facility? What were you trying to accomplish?
Well, Marty, I think we wanted to keep the track as small as we can, but yet big enough to, to accommodate a lot of things. We've got a road course inside, a 1.5-mile road course. This is the first ever 7/8 mile design racetrack in the world. But other than that, in stock car racing, another type of racing, IndyCar, the aero push we hear about all the time is really bad. You know, how are you going to fix it, Scott? The best thing I thought about, you know what? Let's just bank up the second lane. Then let's go ahead and bank up the third lane. So this track has 12, 13, and 14 degrees of banking. And all the stock car races we've had so far, they can run side by side. So, Marty, that was the thought process.
Hold on to those thoughts. And we want to check in right now with Brianne Pettigo. She's caught up with Dan Weldon.
Dan, it's a disappointing start to the day for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. Give us your perspective, what was going on out there.
Oh, it's just, I got loose going in the middle of 1 and 2. And normally I can hold on to it, but I just, you know, it caught me by surprise, and that was it. So, you know, it's just unfortunate. It's definitely having a little bit of a bad run right now, but we'll have to bounce back. But it's obviously unfortunate because I took Thomas with me, and then it's also unfortunate for the team because Scott's out with a problem too right now.
Brianne, let's use our target cutaway car to show you this rack and pinion issue. If we turn the wheel, it's actually located down forward of the shock absorbers. It will turn the wheel, but inside, as you said, Scott Goodyear, is the rack itself and the pinion gear. If that starts to bind up with no power steering on these cars, you're dead in the water.
All right, thanks, Jack. As we saw, as you could tell, that it was Tony Kanaan moving up to 4th, getting around Ed Carpenter while all that was going on. Here is your race lead, Elio Castroneves, with Dario Franchitti 2nd, Scott Sharp in 3rd. You want to ask Rusty a question?
Well, I remember last year talking to Rusty many times. He said he was flying back out to Iowa just to get on the racetrack. And I remember speaking to you one time that you'd just gone around the racetrack. You didn't like the way the banking came off of turn 2. So what you did is you turned around and told him to put some more material in there, some more asphalt, and build the track up because you didn't want the cars falling off the banking of 2. I mean, that's the neat thing about being a previous race car driver. You get just a lot of passing going on the front past the 23 car of Milko Duno. But your experience, Rusty, with these types of tracks really made this racetrack how great it is today.
Well, I appreciate those kind words, Scott. But, you know, actually, we just sculpted this racetrack. We designed it on the CAD cam and then actually drove the track many times under dirt, and it wasn't driving right. So we just kept cutting dirt and moving dirt until the feel as a driver came back. And I wanted to have what I call positive loads in all parts of the racetrack. I didn't want to have the driver go in the corner, the racetrack fall out from underneath them. I wanted the car to be able to lean on banking all the time.
All right, let's check in on our race leader, Elio Castroneves. He's running up front in front of Dario Franchitti at Jackaroo.
And Marty, this is a critical juncture for Elio Castroneves. If he wants to get back in the points chase, down by 51 ducats to the guy that chases him, he needs to have a good finish. Right now, Castroneves is a little concerned about running on the bottom because the car has more push there than he would like. But he tries to take it up a lane. It opens the door for his nemesis there in the 27. So he's in what I like to call a racing conundrum.
And the more you stay down low, the higher the G loads, the more physical drain, and the more wear on the tires, as you pointed out. So a conundrum, definitely. I don't know how to spell it, but I heard him say it. Stay with us. We're going to go side by side. Rusty Wallace, thanks for stopping by. Great seeing you, partner.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Back here at the Ethanol Indy 250, as you can see, the race lead that close. Elio Castroneves and Dario Franchitti. It drops a little further back. There's Scott Sharp, and further back in the traffic, we pick up some of the action with Marco Andretti, I believe, in that bunch. There's Vitor Meira. He has moved up from 13th to 7th. There he is in the Delphi number 4.
A nice run. Did not get the qualifying they expected out of the car. He was very frustrated, very disappointed, but he goes, you know something, I know the race is what we're here for, but as a driver, when you're so competitive, you want to be up front to keep yourself out of bad situations like we saw happen with Dan Weldon. But he has sliced through the traffic here very well, being very patient and trying to make moves. We saw that battle he had beside the 17 of Jeff Simmons in the ethanol car, and he was just very, very patient to make sure he got it done without touching wheels.
Well, his best finish so far this year, 4th, as you go on board with Ed Carpenter. Now we go on board with Tony Kanaan as he is closing on Scott Sharp. And this is a team that's been coming on strong with Sharp, a good qualifying effort back at Texas, as he's under attack right now from Tony Kanaan.
Was sharp on pole at Texas, but did not lead a lap at that race. Qualifies 4th here, and now that he's running 3rd, this is what he needs to do. As we watch the Firestone telemetry, we go along here with Tony Kanaan. Watch the G-force in the bottom of the graphic. 4.8 there just for a moment, but constantly over 4, and that's what we keep on talking about. 100% throttle. He's trying to get around sharp in front, breathing it just a little bit. Now this is where the car will start to change on you as you start to take some of the fuel load off the cars. The fuel starts to go down from 22 gallons, probably down to somewhere around 15 to 14 right now. But you want to make sure that you have the opportunity to understand what the car is doing. You need to make changes on the first pit stop, Marty, to improve the car, because you don't want to have push in the car or the car going loose. You just scrub the tires off it if that's the case.
Take a look there. We got a little side-by-side action going on. That's the 17 of Jeff Simmons, and alongside is Ed Carpenter. That is a battle for 7th and 8th, and Simmons has just passed Carpenter for that position.
Yeah, now Simmons himself, actually, in this situation here, as we go along, he is just getting to a situation where he's lifting his foot off the throttle.
Let's get more on the man following him right there in that shot, Ed Carpenter. Jack?
Yeah, Marty, let's remember Ed Carpenter was one of the reasons why Vision Racing was first founded. He has grown from a 2-car to a 3-car team. I asked Ed yesterday how he would classify his driving style this year versus last. He didn't hesitate for a moment. He said consistency. He said having the teammates that I've got and the group that we have advising me, I have learned to be consistent from the start of the race to the finish. That consistency is beginning to pay off as Ed Carpenter qualified well, and he's running well here in Iowa.
And right now, Carpenter in the 8th position, right in front of Marco Andretti and right behind Jeff Simmons. This has been a in step between these two, between Elio Castroneves and Dario Franchitti. Castroneves still out in front here at Iowa. There is Sam Hornish. We'll go side by side. Back here at Iowa Speedway, the Ethanol Indy 250. Elio Castroneves continues to lead Dario Franchitti, but Elio is peeling off here on lap 69 of 250 for his first scheduled pit stop.
Puts Dario Franchitti into the lead. This is now the 2nd race that he has led this year. The first race, obviously, the Indianapolis 500.
Let's check into the pits.
56-year-old Rick Reineman goes to work on the right front of Elio Castroneves. Castroneves taking the full 22 gallons of ethanol. Vince Welch.
Dario Franchitti is also coming. There you see Tony Kanaan. He has come into the pits as well, and Dario Franchitti will come in. He's pitting in the box just ahead of him. There you see the Indianapolis 500 winner. He was complaining a bit of understeer. They're going to make a tire pressure adjustment, but no chassis adjustment needed for Franchitti.
He is back out underway. Let's check in with Brienne. Oh no, a spin out on the track, and it looks like it's Elio Castroneves. Did he hit something?
Remember, he just came out of the pits after having some service work, so it makes me wonder if he actually just spun out.
Jackaroo?
Yeah, Scotty, remember when Dan Weldon spun at the start of this race? The first thing is the yellow comes out. Tim Cindric warned his driver, said, Elio, Dan lost it all by himself. Remember, during pit stops, we're going to sticker tires. It takes a couple of laps for them to get the heat in. Elio radioed that he acknowledged, but obviously there, those cold tires bit him.
Well, the quick glimpse of the 26 is Marco Andretti. He is your race leader, but he's going to need to stop for fuel. Let's take a look. Here he comes right out, and yep, all by himself.
On the bottom of the screen, he's actually just locked the wheels up. He's trying to put the foot on the gas, trying to get up to speed, coming out of the pit lane as quickly as possible. You hear team managers on the radio telling the drivers the out lap is critical. Get out as quickly as possible in the pit lane, up to speed, because you want to make sure you're fighting out there for track position. Usually one of the best guys at it, but you know something? Here's a situation where just getting on the gas just a bit too soon bit him, and here's where you're fighting the steering wheel. It starts to come around. You're hoping it doesn't, but it certainly does. There's no tire warmers in the Indy Racing Series, so the tires are going out, as Jack mentioned, just a little bit cold. Tire pressures are down. You got to get up once or twice around the racetrack so you have the opportunity to get these tires up to temperature where there's more grip.
You see Ed Carpenter, he has made a pit stop as we are working lap 75 in our second caution of the day. We mentioned that Marco Andretti is the race leader. Danica Patrick is currently moved up to second, but both those racers need to make a pit stop, and they better make it soon. Remember, they stayed out a little longer. Danica topped off, so she's got a few extra laps here. She can make the stop once they open pit lane. In fact, here comes everybody heading down pit lane, led by Marco Andretti.
The crew goes to work, led by Kyle Moyer behind the wall, as Marco Andretti, as we said, suffering from nasal congestion, unable to talk or articulate during the race on the radio. Meanwhile, Buddy Rice also gets service from Dreyer and Reinbold. These are important pit stops, but they take you out of sequence, guys. Well, that is compared to others.
All right, so as the pit stops conclude, we'll sort everything out and find out who has the actual race lead once they come past the timing line one more time, as we're still under our second caution. And it's been a rough season for Helio Castroneves. Remember when the wing collapsed in Milwaukee, sending him into the wall? And here he spins, and that puts him into a bit of trouble as well. We'll go side by side. Actually, we'll be back after this from our ABC stations. And back here at Iowa Speedway, we are under caution. Let's gives us a moment to get in our GoDaddy.com trivia question. And who was the last person to be the first IndyCar winner at a brand new oval track? Mr. Goodyear, do you want to take a stab?
Well, I know the Lazier brothers have been pretty hot on that. I couldn't tell you if it was Buddy or Jacques Lazier. Both of them won races. There we go.
It is Jacques Lazier, and you're right, Buddy has won like 3 of the inaugural events. Chicagoland 2001. And let's get more on Danica Patrick, who right now is shown in 3rd place. Vince?
Well, and certainly Danica hoping that today will be the day that she gets her first win here on the oval at Iowa Speedway. Danica, remember, came in on lap 5 on that initial yellow, the Dan Weldon crash, and put in about an extra gallon and a half of fuel. That enabled her to go a few extra laps than the rest of the leaders. And just as it would work out, because she had those few extra laps available, as you see Kim Green, who handles her strategy, she did not get caught out in the pit lane during that yellow. So she has caught a couple of breaks here in the early going, guys, as she seeks her first win in the IndyCar Series.
And as we get ready to go green flag racing, it is Vitor Meira, Marco Andretti, Danica Patrick, Buddy Rice, and A.J. Foyt the 4th. And oh man, 3 wide heading into 1. Look out.
Actually up to 4 wide at one point in time.
They somehow made it all through. You're on board with Jeff Simmons.
Over 1,000 people here for Simmons and his sponsor Ethanol this week. A lot of pressure on a driver to perform for the sponsor. And he's getting the job done on the high side there. Very difficult.
Simmons in 10th. That was Buddy Rice in the 15 right in front of him. Come by the stripe this time. Things starting to sort out a little bit. Helio Castroneves, who is actually 5 laps down, we can tell you, is trying to work his way back up through the field. Look out, there is Tony Kanaan. And you were riding on board when it happened.
Again, it looked like the 711 car, Tony Kanaan, got a little bit loose. And unfortunately, another victim, just as in the Weldon, Thomas Scheckter crash. Here it is the 17 of Jeff Simmons.
This is really taking on points implications. It's good to see that Tony is okay. We heard him on the radio. As we take a look at this, Tony was 2nd in the points. There's Jeff. His day is over. As you were riding on board, man, this came so fast.
And here, the 711 car in the middle lane going in, just started to get down a little bit lower towards the lower side, down towards the middle turns 1 and 2. Now, yes, the banking does change. Watch the back end of the car start to slide around on him. Then he just becomes a passenger. Unfortunately, the ethanol machine of Jeff Simmons gets taken out the same way that Thomas Scheckter got taken out by Dan Weldon. Now, Marty, I think what's happening is we ride along here with Tony Kanaan. Listen to the throttle, flat on the gas, turns in, and the back end starts to get light. It starts to come around. He feels it, takes his foot off the gas and gets onto the brake. But after the change here in pit stops, you change some things in the car. We watch again, looking forward from Jeff Simmons' car. Jeff had absolutely nothing to do, but you make some tire pressure changes, and the tire pressures are not completely up. And you can hear the impact there. I've lived it. It's not nice.
What is striking in all this is second, third, and fourth in the points right now are out of this race. Tony Kanaan on this crash right here. Scott Dixon, Dan Weldon.
And Marty, we're seeing, I don't want to call them mistakes, but really errors in some ways of way the car is working for the drivers, going through the turns by really people that are veterans, champions with Tony Kanaan and Dan Weldon. But to drive a car fast around a track like this, you have to drive the car loose, and that's when the back end wants to start to come around on you just a little bit. You heard Dan Weldon say, usually I can drive it like that, but this time I just couldn't catch it. Now, if you look on the right-hand side, this is the new system of the safer barrier on your right-hand side, the steel and foam energy reduction. And you can see all this core in situation here where all the foam itself helps absorb the car when the car hits itself. And there's no concrete wall here. You know, in this situation, usually the concrete wall is right along here, but now what's going on is where they have these steel barriers in the back just to help everything itself and take into account that you don't have to pour a concrete wall. There's some cost savings there itself, and all those steel rods themselves and the posts are actually what are now in place of the concrete wall.
Okay, so we are under our third caution of the day as you get another look at this from on board with Tony Kanaan as the car just steps out on him. And we're going to go side by side. Stay with us. This could be an eventful day before it's all over. It's already been eventful for 3 of the top 5 in points. Well, the action has been fast and furious here, and next week it's going to get even more because the IndyCar Series continues next weekend on ESPN. The series makes a pit stop in Virginia for the Richmond IndyCar Challenge presented by XM. It's Saturday night at 7:30 Eastern. While we're still under our third caution here with Vitor Meira leading Marco Andretti and Danica Patrick, let's take a look at our Firestone lap leaders. Elio Castroneves, who is about 5 laps down right now, has led the most, but as you can see, it's Vitor Meira right now racking him up. He's at 18 and counting. We've caught up with Tony Kanaan. Brianne Pettigo, you're there?
Tony, can you tell us what happened there?
Yeah, I think it was a cold tire situation, and I would say it just caught me by surprise. I think I was on the outside making some moves, and it just got loose and spun and crashed. So it's a shame because had many cars out of the championship contention like Dan, Elio, and Dixon. So it was very important points right now that we lost. So it's a shame. I feel sorry for Jeff. I mean, he had nowhere to go. But
were the conditions what you had expected going in?
Well, I was expecting to pass people, and it just especially being back there is just I didn't know where to go. I mean, I was trying to pass as many cars as I could, and caught me by surprise.
Guys.
All right, thank you very much. As you can see, Tony Kanaan still disappointed that he has not been able to seize the opportunity. Who will? That's the big question as we go side by side under our third yellow here at Iowa Speedway. And you saw it on side by side. We have had a multiple car crash as we just returned to green flag racing. As coming across the start finish line, 4 cars tried to go where 4 wouldn't fit.
That's a law of averages, isn't it, Marty? I mean, a lot of laps left here in this race so far. We're just around 100 lap mark right now, 250 laps to go here. We talked about it'll become a different race lap 200. I'm just not sure there's going to be many of these folks get that far. As you said, 4 of them going into a place where maybe 3 might have fit. It just wasn't going to work.
Well, Danica Patrick, Sam Hornish involved in this. Kosuke Matsuura, he's been involved as well. Let's take another look. Here they are going back to green, and look about 3 cars back.
See just a lot of people trying to maneuver for that low line that is everybody's sort of fighting for, and on a start or restart is usually a situation where you're trying to pass some cars. Remember, we talked about what to watch for here. Passing is difficult at this particular track. Right along now, just watch. See, in the top side, what ends up happening is Danica Patrick is getting squeezed down on the low side, ends up rubbing wheels and touching. And here we go on the restart. Already cars on the right-hand side. And both the Vision cars itself are trying to get past her, and she ends up just being in the middle with nowhere to go. Dario Franchitti's on the high side. He tries to make it 4 abreast right there. Maybe a little bit too much movement by Danica try to find her way, but when you got cars coming on both sides, you really have no choice. You're just trying to find a free groove, really, to be able to drive through the traffic going through there on the front.
There's the damage to Helio Castroneves. Vince?
Here with Kim Green. And Kim, you had talked to Danica about the restarts. The car didn't seem to handle as securely on the restarts. Was that an issue?
I think everybody was struggling a little bit. This is a pretty hard tire we've got here to handle loads in this track, so you got to be careful on the starts. You know, I'm pushing her hard about it. It's all about getting going on the start, and so she was trying hard. And you know, I'd have to say also 4 wide around here, I'm sure, is not very sensible. So she didn't have much room to work with the race car. She was trying hard, and just one of those racing things. But our strategy was good as the race went on, or the tank load started to burn up, and everything got warmed up. We actually had a pretty good race car, so we were pretty happy where we're at. We'll get them next time.
Yeah, it's been a crazy day here at Iowa Speedway. Jack?
Well, let's check in with Roger Penske. Roger, Sam Hornish gets collected in a crash not of his making. You've been around this long enough. When you saw what happened at the start-finish line, what went through your mind?
Well, I think everybody's trying to get going, make a pass early on, and I think it looked like Danica spun the tires a little bit, and someone went down her inside and moved her up into the other car. So there's just not a lot of racing room there, but it's unfortunate because we had a good car. Sam had a good start. We're staying under control here, but that's what happens. Ellie will have a good chance now maybe to catch up with so many cars out. But again, you know, these are tough tracks. You got to know what you're doing, and you got to be there at the end, and especially we're in this tight points race. So we're going to ask these cars in trouble early on. It gave us a real window here, but doesn't look like we've collected very much.
Guys?
All right, so far it looks like the 22 of A.J. Foyt IV was involved, Danica Patrick, Sam Hornish, the 55 of Koski Matsuura, and of course Helio Castroneves. We saw him getting a new nose. He's still running. There's what's left of Danica's machine. And there are the cars that have been involved in this multiple car crash, as we are now under our 4th caution here at Iowa Speedway. So as they clean up the mess, we'll be back after this from our ABC stations at the Iowa Speedway. Back under our 4th caution of the day because of a 5-car multi-crash, and you go on board with Ed Carpenter as this is what's going to look like from his end. And that's the carnage behind him. Let's listen in to Scott Sharp on the radio. He's running 4th right now.
Woo! Gonna buy a lottery ticket today. Okay, we know what the game is today, and that's it. Stay clean. There's only going to be 3 of us left by the time this thing's over. Woo! I thought that was it, boys. That was ugly.
So there you see all the cars that are involved, including Danica Patrick. Brienne Pettigo has caught up with her.
Danica, you just watched the replay of that incident. Tell us what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I went around 3 and 4 for the green, and it looked like whoever was on the outside of me passed me before the green even pretty much happened. And then underneath me was maybe Carpenter there, and I had nowhere to go. And as I look at the replay, it looks like Dario was the 4th one on the outside, and he was right next to whoever was right there to the right of me. So it looked like a matter of everybody squeezing down and nowhere to go. It sucks, you know. It's a cold day, and these tires are really hard, and everybody's having problems on the restarts because we just don't have enough temps in our tires. So unfortunately, this is just going to kind of be a funny race.
Jack?
All right, Brianne, A.J. Foyt IV had hoped to join someone like Scott Dixon and go back out and have the car repaired, but you were just told that the car is done. Tell me a little bit about what you felt, most importantly, in that accident.
Well, I had a good run on Danica on the outside on the restart and went to the outside of her, and I guess Ed had a good run also and went to the inside. So I think it was just too many people, you know, at the same spot at the same time. So it's just unfortunate for my team. The car's been good since we got here. You know, Ed's got his car back out there, so hopefully the Hitachi Power Tools car will run good for them so they can get a top 5 for our team and carry the flag. But it's just unfortunate for us because this is the best weekend we've had going so far this year. So unfortunate, but all you can do is get ready and go to Richmond.
High is 3rd, but he will have a DNF, Brienne Pettigo.
Well, I'm walking with Sam Hornish Jr., who is another person that's been collecting back here near the medical center. Sam, what's going on out there?
You know, the restart right there was just terrible. The last two have been bad. You got a guy that's speeding up all the way down the back straightaway, and then he checks everybody up, and then you get guys going 4 wide down the front straightaway. Nobody wants to lift. I'm out there running for points, just trying to, you know, stay up high and away from everybody, and guess what? You get collected anyhow. So it's really frustrating when you're just trying to make it to the end of the race and get a good point today when all of our, you know, competitors for the points, except for Dario, have had troubles, and, you know, it's just frustrating. The Team Penske guys, you know, they give me awesome equipment all the time, and when you tear up a race car, you know, senseless stuff on just a restart, it's really terrible.
There's a lot of frustrated drivers back here, guys.
Well, here's what he means. 7 of the top 10 in points have been involved in either crashes or mechanical problems today. Only Dario Franchitti, Scott Sharp, and Vitor Meira have been unscathed. Now, let's also document the fact that both Ganassi cars are back out on the track. There's Scott Dixon. He is 80 laps down. Dan Weldon is 105 laps down. Who knows? They may be first and second by the time this is over. If you're just tuning in, it has been a crash fest here at the inaugural running of the Iowa Speedway with the Indy cars. That's Dan Weldon and Thomas Schechter in lap number 1. Weldon put the repairs on. He's back out, long down. And there is the second crash. Jeff Simmons gets collected after Tony Kanaan spins. And then here's the worst one on the restart.
Once you get the restart, you need some speed, and this is a situation where all 4 cars got together right at the start-finish line, Marty, and ends up just taking out a lot of people, a lot of drivers. We heard Sam Hornish say, you know something, the starts themselves have been just probably a little bit too slow, and I would have to agree with him, because in the drivers' meeting this morning, the president, Brian Barnhart, said, I'd rather have the start and the restarts faster than slower, because slower creates a problem.
All right, let's go back to the last restart, see if we can hear, listen to the engine revs. We'll sit back and listen with you as we're on board with Vitor Meira.
You start to accelerate just a little bit down the backstretch. Once you start commit yourself to going, there's no getting off the gas and starting to slow things up a little bit. And I think, you know, a lot of these things, you play a little bit of cat and mouse game. You look in your mirror, and as soon as you start to see the driver behind you start to get close, and then he's got to get his foot on the brake like Marco Andretti did, then you put your foot on the gas and take off. I'm not saying that's exactly what the 4-car Vitor Meira did, but looks very suspicious in itself. Now, there's the cones on the left-hand side. That's what we call the go zone that is set up by the Indy Racing League at each particular track that we go to. And what you want to end up doing with those cones on the left-hand side, even though you know where the cone zone is itself, you want to end up in the situation where you start right at the beginning of that first cone and be accelerating all the way to your second cone. And I think he was all the way to the second cone by the time he actually got really on the gas. Now, it's your prerogative. Somewhere in that area you need to go, but typically you're always on the gas at the first cone zone that you get to.
All right, there's Marco Andretti. He was in second place, but he's peeling off and heading for pit lane. Jack?
Well, for Marco Andretti, this is a calculated risk. What he wants to do is be able to top off fuel, but now he's going to put those Firestone sticker tires. And for Michael Andretti, it has been a day of some disappointment, but also a great deal of pride, as it looks like Marco is beginning to maybe vanquish some of the demons that have affected his first half of his season.
Well, we'll see if that happens.
You know, he's having a pretty good race so far. Take a little gamble here on the stop, see if it works, but you know, we have a good shot here.
When you take a look at the way the starts have been, especially the last two, what do you see as a former driver, Mike?
I think the biggest problem right now is cold tires. You know, I think as a cloud cover and everything, the track temperature's cold, so I think the guys are having a little problem with that.
The pride of a father, obvious on Michael Andretti's face, guys.
All right, thank you, Jack. And there you see Marco as he comes back out, as it looks like he'll end up in 5th place now, even though he makes the stop. There are only 6 cars on the lead lap right now, and you see the logo there, HEP. Well, that is in honor of Indiana football coach Terry Hepner, who passed away earlier this week. Of course, the Panther team based in Indianapolis. And there is a lot more to this story than just a salute to the former IU football coach. And for that, we'll bring in Brienne Pettigo.
That's right, Marty. In actuality, John Barnes, the owner of Panther Racing, and Coach Hepner were close friends. And it is, you know, a loss that this whole team is feeling, and they've chosen to honor him by putting Hep on the car and also on their pit cart. And Vitor and John have been wearing the IU football hat all weekend long. I talked to John about their relationship earlier today, and he actually used a Vince Lombardi quote to describe to me Terry Hepner. He said, "The difference between a successful person and others is not a lack of strength or a lack of knowledge, but rather a lack of determination." He said that is Terry Hepner to a T. Other crew members down here have said he was the guy that when you talked to him afterward, you walked away and you just felt uplifted. So if Vitor Mir can hold on to that top position on the pylon up here and bring home a victory today, it would mean a lot to the Hepner family. Vince?
Well, Brienne, John Anderson, who is handling the strategy for Dario Franchitti. There you see Franchitti currently running second. They've been on the radio regularly with Dario talking about what will their strategy be. Marco Andretti, who was running third, came into the pits. Dario quizzed as to why, and they told Dario all the others that we're battling with in points are having problems today. Let's play it very conservatively, and that means we're going to stay out. So keep your eyes open and your nose clean, the message to Dario Franchitti here, and it's going to be a successful day in the point standings.
So there is Scott Sharp as he is in third place right now. And of course, this has been a team also that's been struggling. Ray Hall Letterman Racing haven't won race in a couple of years. Then as we move back a little further, Darren Manning in fourth place for A.J. Foyt in the number 14 car. There you see him as this is one of his best oval runs going right now. He did real well at St. Pete until he had a little problem near the end of the race.
And a road course master. He's making his way on ovals right now. Been doing a very good job, and a lot of pressure on you when you run for A.J. Foyt Racing.
Jack, you've got more as we're getting ready to go green.
A fortuitous pit stop for Michael Andretti. Take a look at the rear tire. It did have a puncture. Well, Michael told us we go back to green. Well, Michael told us they were gambling. They didn't realize what a big gamble it was going to be.
All right, Jack, as the green flag flies, it is Vitor Mir with points leader Dario Franchitti in second, Scott Sharp in third, and the three of them are trying to check out on the rest of the field.
Now for Vitor, he gets to lead here. He led 3 laps at Texas. This is the second race that he's now led this year. You see him on the low line. That's exactly where he wants to be. The short course around here is on the low line. Looks like now he's starting to get himself going just well. This pack that we have here in the situation with a number 9 car on the low side. Remember, Scott Dixon got his car repaired and came back out.
And there is the 14. That is Darren Manning. He's gotten around and is in front of Marco Andretti. He is fourth, Marco fifth, Buddy Rice sixth. Those are the 6 cars on the lead lap. That's Elio Castroneves. He is much further down in the field. He is about 5 laps down, I'm sorry, as he is in 9th place. If you're just tuning in here at the bottom of the hour, we welcome you to the Ethanol Indy 250 at the inaugural IndyCar event here at the Iowa Speedway. It's a 7/8 mile, which has seen a lot of carnage as we are working the midway point of the race, lap 125 of 250. I'm Marty Reed along with Scott Goodyear. And down in the pits, we've got Jack Arute, Vince Welch, and Brienne Pettigo. And we don't have as many cars out on the track as we started this race because we have a number of crashes. We've had a total of 4 cautions for 55 laps.
Marty, we said at the beginning of the show that this is a new circuit, so some of the unknowns, and I think that we're now learning a lot about what can and cannot happen here at this new racetrack. Great facility. Rusty Wallace has been involved in designing it, and they did a terrific job here. Everybody loves it, but the tire themselves, you heard some people talk about the tires, the Firestone tires. Now, they anticipated it to be 90 to 95 degrees here at this particular time of year, and we've had these overcast skies as we watch the Firestone telemetry here on top of the Delphi machine of Vitor Mir, but it's about 74, 76 degrees here, so the tire itself might be a little hard for the temperature that we are running, but because we're anticipating that 95 degrees temperature that you always want a nice hard tire for. But I understand what Michael Andretti is saying about, you know, cold tires and tire might be a little bit hard here, but everybody's in the same boat. Many times we've run races that the temperature has not been perfect for the tire. The drivers are in control of the car.
We're back 2.
And what you need to do, as we hear the spotter telling Vitor Mira, cleared by 2 car lengths, is that you need to adjust as a driver for the conditions, and drivers today just have not been doing that and having any patience whatsoever.
Vitor Mira, his 66th start. He has yet to win in an IndyCar Series event. He has finished second 7 times. Is today the day that he finally breaks through? The man who's leading the points and won the Indianapolis 500 is right behind him, Dario Franchitti. A little bit further back is Scott Sharp, about 0.8 of a second behind. There is Scott, and he has got a very good run going for Rahal Letterman Racing. Rounding out the top 5, it's Darren Manning and Marco Andretti. We're going to step aside as you go side by side here at the Ethanol IndyCar 250. The most prestigious golf championship in the world returns to ABC. Defending champion Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, and Ernie Els charge into Scotland to battle Carnoustie. It's the British Open. Coverage begins July 21st at 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, all on ABC. And they won't make as much noise as we do here at the Iowa Speedway. As you're looking at our race lead, Vitor Mira, he's led 67 now of the 142 laps. He's right in front of Dario Franchitti, and closing, albeit by about 0.3 of a second, is third place Scott Sharp. 6 cars right now on the lead lap. We have a total of 6 cars that have crashed out of this race, and we have a yellow on the racetrack, and we're being told it is debris out on the track, so that will be our 5th caution here on lap 144 of 250. So as they slow down, the 6 that are out of this because of the crashes, Danica Patrick, Sam Hornish.
Hey, buddy, they're saying debris in the front straightaway. I do not see where it's at. Keep your eyes open.
A.J. Foyt the 4th, Koski Matsura, Tony Kanaan, Jeff Simmons, Thomas Schechter. Those are the cars that are out of this event right now.
And now will be a perfect opportunity to have pit.
They're just saying to keep it low. Trucks are out there, buddy. Follow pace car.
Anytime you're going to pit here underneath green, you're certainly going to lose a lap or 2. So look for all the leaders here to take advantage of this yellow flag situation to come in.
No
to put
changes, no changes.
4 Firestone tires on and 22 gallons of ethanol fuel.
The Delphi safety crew right on the front stretch out picking up the debris. There you can see that they have they're scouring the entire area.
Well, you know, we've seen a few cars that were involved in the accidents. As you can see, it looks like pieces of wing coming off the car and what have you. The 20 car of Ed Carpenter comes to mind because he got banged up fairly on this front stretchway here. And I have a question about possibly the some of the car parts that are actually on that car, and the suspension was hit itself. So we'll just have to make sure that we can keep an eye on him to see if he actually might have any difficulties completing this race.
So it looks like we're going to have pit stops, and let's go to Brianne Pettigo.
Well, the race leader, Vitor Mira, is pulling into his pit box. As expected, no changes are made to this car, but notice his snazzy helmet, guys. Brazilian pop artist Ritmo Mundo painted this helmet for him. They're going to auction it off after the race for their charity Best Buddies. Vince?
Dario Franchitti and Scott Sharp both out. Remember, they came in running 2nd and 3rd. No changes for Franchitti, and Sharp's car was good as well.
We take a look at Marco Andretti as he pulls back out onto the field. A nominal stop for Marco. They just want to continue to top off the fuel. But now all of a sudden there is some discussion. Nope. I began to wonder, they were bringing a set of tires back over, but fellas, that would have been scary for all the good work they did on pit road.
Well, and you saw the race off pit road, and Vitor's crew took about 3 seconds longer on their pit stop, and it cost him. He drops 3 spots. Right now, your race leader is the 15 Brian Reinbold entry of Buddy Rice. So here at Iowa Speedway, we're under caution. We'll be back after this from our ABC stations. This is ESPN on ABC. Back here at the Iowa Speedway, we're getting ready to go back to green flag racing. Buddy Rice is your race leader in the number 15. He last pitted 30 laps ago, so he still has some time. He's in front of Dario Franchitti, and you hear the call. We're back racing under green. Franchitti's going to the high side. He makes quick work of Buddy Rice.
Both Buddy and Sarah from the Brian Reinbold team knew they didn't have very fast cars today. Buddy last won back in Michigan in 2004, so he's been a little bit winless here, but certainly a talented driver, can get the job done. But as he said, you know, when I've gone flat out all the way around, I won't go any faster. I can't do a lot more.
That is Marco Andretti on the high side, trying to get around Buddy Rice as well. Let's get more from Jack Arute on Buddy Rice.
Well, for Buddy Rice and his teammate Sarah Fisher, every yellow has meant a stop on pit road. Not just to take on ethanol, but to make adjustments to the car. Next time in, Buddy Rice is going to make an adjustment to the left front wings. The car still is not free enough for him to be competitive with some of these front runners.
Yeah, he's already been passed by Franchitti, Andretti, Vitor Meira, and Scott Sharp is closing quickly. Right now, Vitor Meira is taking a look on the high side of Marco Andretti. We go on board with Vitor.
Remember, the low side is the fastest way around here, and Vitor is playing a little bit of games right now, trying to run the high side, the low side, filling up the mirrors of Marco Andretti's car, who's just directly in front. Now, Marco has to leave just enough room underneath to let Vitor think that he can get through, and just sort of move over and close the door if Vitor starts to stick his nose on the low side.
Let's talk about fresh tires, because remember, we had a couple of these crashes right as we went green on cold tires.
Tire pressures have to come up, the temperatures have to come up. Tire blankets or tire warmers are not allowed in the Indy Racing Series at this particular track. Sometimes I do wonder, though, if that might be a help for some of these drivers who seem to put their foot on the gas maybe a little bit too soon. We also don't have traction control here, so you do see them spin tires a little bit with the high horsepower we have from these Honda engines on the restart. And Marco Andretti now is starting to get just a little bit racy, which has got to give him a lot of confidence, because he's had so many struggles, as we've documented throughout the show, all throughout this year.
If you were not with us at the beginning of the broadcast, Marco has failed to finish all 6 oval races this year. 2 of them, he climbed out of the car because the car was just not controllable. He's crashed. I mean, it's everything that's happened to him. Right now, this is a great battle going on and a big chance for him.
Well, it's also very difficult for him because he wants to get off the low side to try to take a run around the 27, his teammate of Dario Franchitti. But if he gives up that low side, who's going to fill it? Vitor Meira, and here he goes right now. Down a gear to get the engine RPMs up, get the power band working for him again. A little bit slow, ended up getting slow because of the car of Marco, and he slices across the back of Marco, loses the downforce over the wings, and loses some ground on the 2 cars up in front.
Lost quite a bit of ground. In fact, you see how far he drops back. Dario Franchitti continues to run out front. He's now led 11 laps. And the secret to Dario's season this year, he hasn't been one of the guys running up front leading all the laps. He's just been in key places at the right time, like when the rain fell at Indianapolis. Vince?
Guys, one thing you don't want to do when you're leading the race, as Dario Franchitti is make a mistake on your pit stop. And the last time Franchitti came in, he didn't get quite as close to the wall as he needed to. And his fueler, Corey McLish, barely was able to get the fuel probe into the car. They reminded Dario after his stop, we were almost too far out. Make sure you get closer next time. Jack Arute?
Well, Vince, when Marco Andretti goes to the high side like he is right now, each and every time down on pit road, his father, Michael Andretti, holds his breath. It's quite evident to me, fellas, that Michael knows that Marco needs to stay behind, at least at this point in time. But as we all know, youth and exuberance sometimes overrides common sense.
There you see Michael, his look. There is Ashley Judd. That's Dario Franchitti's wife, as she is in the pit box looking on, as well as her husband, and continues to lead. We're lapping at speeds over 180 miles an hour on this 7/8 mile oval. It is that close between the top 3. If you've just tuned in, it has been a day of carnage, as a total of 6 cars are behind the wall with crash damage. We have 7 cars on the lead lap. After this top 3 of Franchitti, Andretti, and Meira, it is Buddy Rice in 4th in the 15. Scott Sharp in the 8 is 5th. Ed Carpenter has gotten back on the lead lap. He is now 6th. And then Darren Manning is 7th. We're on board with Ed Carpenter as he's looking to go around the 8 of Scott Sharp. Let's get more from Jack Arute.
As he works the high side here at Iowa, remember the Carpenter was involved in that big fracas, tries down low, and finds a pick in front of him, so he decides to back out. The only major change they had to do during those long pit stops was change the right rear toe link. That was the only piece that was bent beyond continuing.
Word coming to us that IndyCar officials are telling Scott Sharp to hold his line, blocking is not allowed. And we ought to explain for the viewer what they mean by hold the line.
Well, you can see the lines on the track when you go through the turns, and the rule basically is, and it's really an unwritten rule, that if you enter low, then you drive low and come off low. And if you actually enter in the middle, then you enter in the middle, stay in the middle, and come off in the middle. But right now, looks like Scott Sharp's car is moving around a little bit, maybe to their eyes. But I got to tell you, as a driver driving in this car, if I was him, I'd also be feeling the situation. You know, 8 cars, a car that's on the left-hand side of your screen. Scott Sharp's car comes off the turn. Now, that might be a little bit of a move. Yeah, okay, I'll call that. But also, you're following behind the 15 car of Buddy Rice that's up ahead of you, and you're getting that disturbed air off of that car, and it moves your car around. So sometimes not the easiest thing to do is to stay in that proper lane all the way around the race course.
Well, there's the battle up front. Marco Andretti in the blue and white 26, trying the high side, cannot find enough speed to get around. Dario Franchitti in third. It's Vitor Meira. We're side by side. Take a look at Dario Franchitti, our points leader. Going into this race, he had only led 34 laps. He's leading again here. Those 34 were at Indy. And of course, Tony Kanaan came in second. Scott Dixon was third, and his teammate Dan Weldon was fourth. 20 markers back. And Sam Hornish rounds out the top 5. He's 27 behind, and 7 of the top 10 in the points have been involved in either mechanical problems or crashes. What does it all mean? Well, for a big opportunity for the race leader, Dario Franchitti, to stretch the points lead. Take a look at our Firestone lap leaders. Right now, Vitor Meira has led the most with 71. Dario Franchitti is clicking off, about to turn 30 here, as Elio Castroneves led early, but he is now 4 laps down after being involved in the last crash.
And Vitor Meira right now, who's been running in third, seems like he's starting to have some problems with his car, starting to fall back from the 2 that are up in front of him, Dario Franchitti and Marco Andretti. Now he'll have at least 1 more pit stop. You see the car starting to go high off the turns, and I think the car has some understeer, Marty. That means the front end is not responding to the amount of steering that he's putting into it. And the cars from behind, including Buddy Rice and Scott Sharp and Ed Carpenter, are starting to make some ground on Vitor Meira.
That's on board with Carpenter. The 8 car is Scott Sharp. That is a battle for position. It's been going on for quite a few laps.
Now Sharp's having some trouble here because he gets that dirty air coming off the car that's up in front, Buddy Rice, and it makes his car slide up the racetrack on the exit of the turn, and then he starts to come back down towards the low side. You see Buddy Rice is not having any problems because he's got all that clean air up in front of him. It's making it very difficult for the 20 car of Ed Carpenter to get a clean, consistent run on the number 8 machine of Scott Sharp.
That is a battle for position. Buddy Rice is running 4th. Sharp is 5th. Well, he was. Now it's Ed Carpenter 5th as he gets around him on the high side.
And Ed Carpenter did a nice slice job right in front of the number 8 machine of Scott Sharp, because he said, you know something, I didn't appreciate it, how difficult it was to get around you because I had a faster car. Now he's going to work on the 15 of Buddy Rice because he's got some speed, guys.
And he is.
Fellas, for Ed Carpenter, this is going to go all for naught in about a lap and a half as he's been called on the pit road, as has Buddy Rice.
All right, thanks, Jack, as he has cleared.
Okay, Ed, pit stop, pit.
Which radio was that? There is the race lead. That was Carpenter's radio saying pit this lap, so it looks like Ed, after all that hard work, is maybe coming into the pits. We'll keep our eyes open for that. Meanwhile, that's the battle up front.
Watch your speed around the corner here.
Well, that's...
And Carpenter is coming into the pits, Jack.
Now the key is to hit your marks and to remember, after resetting your fuel meter and taking on the 22 gallons, to make absolutely certain you remember you have sticker tires on when it takes 4 or 5 laps to come back up to full speed. Carpenter is off and away as Buddy Rice will hit pit road with a 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. Let's see if they do make the front wing adjustment that they have been talking about, or if they will be satisfied with the horse they've got. There it is, a half turn into the left front. A nice pair of green flag stops, guys.
Yeah, but the operative word there is green flag, because you are going to lose at least 1 lap and maybe 2, because remember, you're lapping here at 17 seconds and change, and Dario Franchitti and Marco Andretti have pulled open a sizable margin of about almost 2 seconds over third place Vitor Meira.
Well, as long as these lead cars, everybody else who is not pitted has to pit underneath green, then it's really no harm, no foul. But if a yellow comes out, then the advantage goes to the drivers who have not pitted at this time.
Let's set it for you, because with Franchitti, Andretti, and Meira running the top 3, Scott Sharp is 4th, Darren Manning is 5th, and that's it for lead lap cars right now. And that's what you're talking about, Scott. If it goes yellow right now, those 5 are the big winners. Everybody that's already pitted are the big losers. There is Scott Sharp in the 8 car, second from last, and there is Darren Manning. He is right now the last car on the lead lap, and he is about 4.3 seconds behind the race leaders.
This is a good run from them. This team has been improving ever since the beginning of the year. Darren Manning certainly adds a lot of input to the team, working with the engineers, as Scott Sharp now is looking for the low line. Didn't get it done up top, but now the low line underneath Buddy Rice, who's now on the high side, the 15 car, the blue and white car on your screen, and right behind him, the 14 of Darren Manning. And that team just continues to improve, and we look for continuation of that all throughout the remainder of the season.
So there you see Darren Manning as he continues to soldier on in 5th. Right now, Andretti Green has won 1-2 finish already this year. That was in Milwaukee. Kanaan and Dario Franchitti. Can they do it again? Back here at the Ethanol IndyCar 250 at Iowa Speedway, it was a sloppy start. Dan Weldon got sideways, collected Thomas Schechter. Schechter's out. Weldon came back. Then there was more problems with the steering linkage, but Dixon, they got that repaired. Believe it or not, he's 10th, 77 laps down. Tony Kanaan then lost control, collected Jeff Simmons. Those 2 cars are on the way to Richmond already. And then just 4 wide on this front straightaway doesn't work. 6 cars, including Danica Patrick, Sam Hornish, AJ Foyt the 4th, Kosuke Matsuura. Meanwhile, Dario Franchitti and Marco Andretti running 1 and 2 as Andretti Green Racing looking for another 1-2 finish here at the inaugural running at Iowa Speedway. And we have pit stops, which we will usually call the last stop the money stop, because this could happen under green unless something happens. 40 laps to go. This could be the last, and we're hearing strategies, Scott, of maybe no tires for the front-running car.
Well, it takes 6 seconds basically to put a set of tires on. If you only need 4 seconds worth of fuel to make it to the end of the event, track position, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, is going to be so important, and you probably forsake tires to make sure that you don't end up in track position. We've watched Marco Andretti right now. Marco Andretti sitting back behind Dario Franchitti cannot get by, so coming out of the pits and being in the lead, I think, will be very interesting. Now, the in and out laps are very important also, and Marco, remember, just the 2nd season, is only 20 years old, and Dario Franchitti, a lot of experience with that Scotsman, 34 years of age, and who will end up doing the best job in the pits, we'll have to wait and see.
Let's get more from Jack Arute.
Yeah, Scott Goodyear, the reason Marco Andretti has not gotten around Dario Franchitti is because both teams have decided to have it that way and make the river card in this game of 185-mile-an-hour poker be that last pit stop. Both teams have tried to conserve tires by not forcing the issue. Conserve tires by not forcing the issue. Being content to run during this sequence just nose to tail.
Well, there comes Dario Franchitti as he is first to peel off. That will give the race lead to Marco Andretti. And the young man who is 20 years old and lacking all the confidence after 6 DNFs has the race lead. Let's find out what happens with Dario Franchitti. Vince?
Well, Jeff Grahn has signaled for Dario. Grahn is positioned on the right front, but they're not going to change tires. Those were just out there for decoy. It's fuel only for Dario Franchitti. Jack Arute.
Let's see if it will be likewise. Tires are set out for Marco Andretti. They do go to the right side and the left side. The last-minute decision to go for new tires. Now remember, Marco Andretti will have to be aware.
You saw from the onboard, Meira has damage to the left front, and we have no idea why. Let's go back and see.
Well, now he's just on the apron going in the turn. Watch this wall on your I was going to say watch the wall on your left-hand side, but the car started to vibrate just before he headed to the wall. to go around it on the apron, and just some bad luck for Vitor Mira. A suspension breakage.
Here is the current race leader, Scott Sharp, as he's cycling through. So Vitor Mira can't buy a break. Let's check in with Vince Welch again.
Scott Sharp sticking to a similar strategy as what Dario Franchitti ran. There you see, no tire change, just a short fuel for Scott Sharp, and he's out.
Hot tires, it's green, 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 green.
Saying hot tires.
Dario, he's coming by right now, there he goes.
And there he goes, that's Dario Franchitti.
Now, on all those pit-in laps, Dario Franchitti was slowed because the 10 car of Dan Weldon was also coming in, so he's slowed on the apron, and that might have been one of the reasons they chose not to take on tires, because he would have radioed ahead and said, I got slowed up, I can't risk it. Now, as you saw with Marco Andretti, who just went across the stripe, he missed his pit marks actually coming in, and they had a very slow stop, and that's the reason why he's so far behind Dario Franchitti at this point in time.
Yeah, after the pit stops, Dario is your race leader by 4.7 seconds over Marco Andretti. So with 30 laps to go, Dario Franchitti.
You're all by yourself, clear all around. You're doing a great job.
And you heard the pit spotter tell him it's exactly that. He's clear all around.
And we talked about the age and the experience difference between those two drivers just before the pit stop, and just that foot difference coming in the pit lane and missing those marks from Marco Andretti looks like it's cost him the distance and maybe an opportunity to even be looking at the rear wing of the 27 machine of Dario Franchitti right there.
Scott, I also think the last-minute decision to go for tires, and it was a last-second decision. Originally, even when the pit stop started, they had no intentions of changing the tires, and then the call was made, and it was a momentary lapse on the part of all 4 tire changers as they had to make the transition to going with no tires to putting 4 on.
Yeah, but let's be honest, guys. Even if this kid finishes second, that is a major accomplishment after the seasons he's had so far.
Oh, and a confidence builder, without a doubt, especially when you go to a very tough track next, Richmond, which is a little bit like this. It's a bull ring, and you know something, you can't go there and not have confidence, and this will just be a big boost to his confidence, and he'll have a great week ahead of him, not like he's had in the past where he's just probably wondering what in the world he's doing.
Well, you see that Patron labeled car right behind him? That is third place Scott Sharp, so he does have to keep an eye on the mirrors. And that's Sharp's radio telling him you got eyes on Marco. In fourth, it is Ed Carpenter with a great run going, despite all the contact he's been involved in. Darren Manning is fifth, Buddy Rice is sixth, and Sarah Fisher is now shown 2 laps down in seventh. And there was Sarah in the 5 car. Good run for her. She was not performing all that well during the practice and qualifying.
Both those cars, they were not happy with it, but the AAMCO machine right now is doing a great job. She just will hopefully get her best finish here of the season, because she really wants an opportunity just to improve this car. She was not happy with it.
We've got yellow on the racetrack with 23 laps to go. There is debris on the track.
Now this changes everything.
Boy, it certainly does.
There's your pace car there, pace car right there.
Dario Franchitti will pick up the Honda Hybrid pace car. And now on this restart, the experience of Franchitti on the restart to maybe possibly, I don't want to say the inexperience of Marco Andretti, but their teammates. Will there be team orders?
6th caution of the day. Let's check in with Brienne Pettigo.
Well, guys, Vitor, obviously very disappointed. We saw you checking out your front left tire. What was the problem there?
It's not, as you guys can see, there's not the right front tire. The whole left front suspension. I braked and it just collapsed it to me when I transferred a lot of weight to the front braking. It's a shame. The Panther Delphi car was the best on the track. It was the best on the track. It wasn't the fastest, but wasn't the best on all conditions. And we were gonna, one more restart, we would have been again on the front. It's a shame.
Guys.
Scott, have you ever seen that before?
Actually, we have seen that before. And, you know, a lot of these teams obviously life all these parts. They actually have barcodes on them. They know exactly where those parts on the car, everything indeed knows in the situation if they've run on high-speed tracks, low-speed tracks, they get an opportunity to follow all that. It's all computerized. So here's a situation that maybe just the forces of this particular track, or maybe he rubbed up against something. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns in that situation, but a big disappointment for him. But we have had that happen before, and Dallara built some great parts. Teams do build their own parts also. We don't know if this is something that the Panther team themselves have built in their shop, and the life cycle of it. I mean, there's so many questions to go with that situation.
Well, Vitor will finish no lower than 9th because there's 11 cars out there on the track. Scott Dixon is 77 laps down. Dan Weldon 105.
20 laps to go.
And as you just heard, there's only 20 laps left, so that's why we can do that math and tell you where Vitor will end up.
So what happens here with Dario Franchitti leading the points? Everybody else that he's around in the championship hunt right now is not getting great points today. Is he a little conservative on here? If Marco really makes a dive at it, does he sort of leave the door open for him and maybe not contest it, and maybe have a situation where he'll take second? Obviously a driver wants to win, but the big points payday right now for Dario Franchitti. And then you've got Scott Sharp, who's sitting there third, who's now just a renewed energy, changing over to the Ray Hall Letterman team this year. He wants to prove a point. He's got a new Patron sponsorship, and in a situation like that, are you going to go up there and be forceful? The start here will be very interesting, Marty, on this restart.
You mentioned second, third, fourth, and fifth in the points, all involved in either mechanical or crash problems. Believe it or not, they'll stay second, third, fourth, and fifth with the current results if they hold up. The only problem is they're going to be a lot farther behind.
And that's what's on Dario's mind, absolutely.
All right, we're going to go green flag racing this time by, so it'll be 18 laps to go. And boy, Dario.
In the start on that one, huh?
Dario hammered down. Marco's right behind him. Scott Sharp is third. Ed Carpenter fourth. Darren Manning fifth. Buddy Rice is sixth. Those are the 6 cars on the lead lap.
Faster restart has the cars spread out. You don't have the potential situation of the cars all collecting each other like they did on that one restart where Vitor Mira was up front.
So now the question is, if you're 20-year-old Marco Andretti, do you try and force the issue if you can get back up, just knowing that you've had all these problems? Are there any team orders, Jackaroo?
The answer, quite simply, no. Let me repeat it, no. Marco Andretti's been given the green flag by that man, team owner, and his dad, Mario Andretti. Vince Welch?
Guys in the Ray Hall Letterman pit, they're telling Scott Sharp, don't hesitate to pressure Marco Andretti. He's trying to finish his first oval, so don't hesitate to pressure him. So they're getting the feeling that if Sharp can pressure Marco, maybe he'll give up the spot a little easier than normal, just in the sake of keeping the car in one piece.
Yeah, but Vince, Scott's got a problem. It's called Ed Carpenter. Carpenter's all over him.
He's had a fast car since they came here with the Vision team. Very impressive, and A.J. Foyt, the fourth, was very quick also. One of his best qualifying runs here. And the only problem for Ed Carpenter right now, the 20 car, the second green car on your screen, is that he's got to go around the outside of the number 8 of Scott Sharp. And if Sharp, if he's smart, he says, okay, I cannot really catch those 2 guys in front. I've got about 13 more laps here. If I can turn around, just hold this low line, I don't think he can get around the high side of me.
So as Carpenter, if he holds fourth, it'll be a career best finish for him. His prior career best was 5th. And as you see, Dario Franchitti with a very fast Marco Andretti right behind him. Here's our ethanol edge. Dario on the short ovals. He has 2 wins and 11 top 10s. Vince?
Guys, all weekend long, they've been talking, the drivers have been talking about how good these Firestone tires are. Dario Franchitti last took tires at lap 146. That means he would go 104 laps on the same tires. I asked John Anderson, what's the most laps you ran in practice on the same set? He said about 80, but when we took the tires off, they looked great. Jackaroo?
And for the man running in second, snake bit in the first half of the season, the young Marco Andretti keeps looking to the high side. Remember, he started the day with a severe sinus infection and with a monkey on his back. Now he trails his teammate, and there are, as I said, no team orders. It was a slight miscue during a pit stop when Marco thought it was going to be fuel only. Even the tire changers thought it was fuel only, but they decided to take on 4 new Firestone Firehawks. This is going to be a battle between Team AGR and Team AGR.
9 laps to go. It'll be 8 this time by. And again, Dario just hugs the low line. He's going to force Marco to take the high road, which is a lot longer around this 7/8 mile track.
Remember, they say the upper line is about 125 feet further, although it might be a little bit quicker. And he keeps working the line up. Now, Dario will hear from the spotter that Marco's looking on the high side, and he'll know not to move up into that next groove because he'll end up touching wheels.
The vapor trail still flying off of the back of these cars. It's been an overcast, very cool day. But it has been hot on the racetrack as we are down to 6 laps to go this time by. And look at the 40,000 in attendance, a lot of them on their feet watching this showdown. Down the backstretch, still in lockstep. Marco still trying to figure out how to make the high side work. Dario trying to hold that low line.
5 to go, 5 to go.
And you heard it, 5 to go. Marco Andretti, really a road course specialist. Very strong at Watkins Glen last year. Won at Sonoma on the road course. A win in his rookie year, something really tremendous for a 19-year-old, but 20 years old right now as we see Ashley Judd on the right-hand side, Dario and Franchidi's wife. She's counting laps down too, just like the driver is in the cockpit, Marty.
4 to go, down the back stretch, Marco. And we're hearing that Ed Carpenter has have a problem, and he is slowing down the backstretch. So Ed pulls into pit lane. So here's the battle for the race lead. This time it'll be 3 laps to go. Marco, the 20-year-old, just can't get enough speed. This time by it'll be 2 laps to go.
2 laps to go. Carpenter down low. Carpenter low.
And guys, Ed Carpenter is out of fuel.
Oh, so a tough break for Ed Carpenter. He had a career best run in his hip pocket, but just a few laps short. Not short for Dario Franchitti. He's got one more lap.
White flag, bud.
Less than a mile down the backstretch. If Marco has anything, he's going to have to do it on the high side because Dario's not giving up the low line.
Got a wing. Got a wing. Just a wing.
Coming out of 4. His win at Indy is backed up with a win at the inaugural running at Iowa. 2nd win of the season, 6th career win, his 3rd win on the tracks of 1 mile or less.
And very impressive, we said earlier this year that Andretti Green Racing was nowhere on ovals last year, Marty, and what a difference a year makes, and that's what you have to have if you're going to have a shot at the championship.
Let's check in with Vince Welch.
Well, the spotter for Dario Franchitti, Dave Renninger, said, I'm thinking about starting a Dario room in his house. Ashley Judd, do you have room in your home for a Dario? The extra trophies you're winning here.
You know, my husband is quite the pack rat, so I'm sure that we'll be getting storage spaces. Oh, I think he's going to do a Zanardi. Right on, an Alex Zanardi burnout. Good boy. I tell you what, that was a little too exciting for me. As I said earlier, one of our dogs got out and was loose for 24 hours. So we found her, you know, not long before the race started. And then Marco is really special to me. I absolutely adore him. Dario's grandmother calls Dario his special boy, and I'm like that toward Marco. He's my special boy. That was just a little too exciting for me. Seriously, I could actually like cry with the relief of it all. But it was terrific to see Marco get some good stints in and compete with Dario like that. It reminded me of Gilles and Dario in Detroit, like a qualifying effort every lap, lap after lap. So I'm glad we were able to keep those tires clean to the carbon fiber and win the race. He's driving well right now, which is great. The guys are setting the car up in a way that really suits him.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Marty.
All right, there's Marco Andretti, a good, strong finish, a confidence builder. As you take one more look at the finish, we go side by side. We'll talk to the winner when we come back. There's our race winner, trackside. Let's go to Jackaroo.
Well, I don't know if Dario Franchitti's going to like this, but Ashley said you lost your dog. If you have to lose your dog for 24 hours for the rest of the season, would you put up with that?
No. I know. I was pretty upset when I lost my dog last night, but they found her this morning. She was out having a good time.
And you found Victory Lane.
And we found, well, eventually I found that I kind of missed the turn coming in, and there's a whole drama, but just a great job here by the Canadian Club guys all day. We took a bit of a gamble there at the end just to extend that lead, and it worked. And then didn't need that last yellow though, but that car was fantastic all day. We had some really good restarts, and yeah, it was a fun race, pretty physical though.
As a driver, when you're told that you're going to go longer than you have ever gone before at Iowa on a set at Firestone tires, what goes through your mind?
I had total confidence. It was my call, actually. I said, look, the tires are not, I'm finding no drop-off in tire wear. Let's just keep going. Firestones were great, and I think we could have run double stint on them today. But no, just a great day.
You know, you came up road racing, and you've become the short oval meister. What is it about short ovals that you like so much?
I wouldn't say short oval meister. There's a lot of good guys in this series. I do enjoy them a lot. This is different, though. This Iowa Speedway runs almost like a super speedway. The restarts were a lot of fun. We're making up a lot of places on the restarts, like I said. But when we settled into that rhythm, it was just trying to be smooth and keep the RPMs up. And as I said, everything worked out.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, Marty.
I'll tell you what, the smile on his face is going to get a lot bigger when he takes a look at the updated points standings, as Dario Franchitti is about to stretch his margin to 51 over Tony Kanaan, 52 over Dixon, 54 over Weldon, and 64 over Sam Hornish. To give you an idea, if you remember, Sam was 27 back coming in to today's race. That's how much ground he picked up. Let's talk to second place, Brianne Pedigo.
What a finish for Marco Andretti. Marco, what does this do to your confidence going into Richmond?
Yeah, there's definitely no confidence lost here. You know, it was a bummer. Maybe I overshot the pit box a little bit too much. I'm not sure I would have beat him out anyway, but that definitely hurt my chances. But awesome job for Andretti Green, and it helps in the points as well for Dario. And I got to thank him for the setup. The guy's unbelievable at setting up a car, and you know, his cars were 1-2.
Well, this was definitely an exciting race to watch. What were your first impressions racing here?
Oh man, this place is different. It's a short oval, but it's flat out, so it's like you treat it like a super speedway. It's the G's are unbelievable. It's very physical, and I'm very under the weather, so I'm hurting.
Vince?
I want to take a look as we stand here with Scott Sharp, who finished a season-best third today. Cameraman Jeff, take a look at how sweaty. I don't know if I hope you can see that on TV. I mean, Scott, you're sopping wet. Was it that tough of a workout today?
Yeah, I tell you, it is tough. I was never one of the ones that complaining, but when you get 40, 50, 60 laps into a run, you really start to feel the effort you got to put on the steering wheel every lap. And really, not much of a break on the front straightaway, almost all the way around. So it's tough, but hey, same for everybody.
Yeah, third place finish today. I heard your crew telling you try to pressure Marco if you could. Did you just not have anything there at the end?
Yeah, unfortunately, we just didn't quite have enough speed, and we weren't that great right behind somebody. But hey, you know, this Patron Rahal Letterman team's really worked hard this weekend. We made 3 different major wholesale setup changes. I just got to thank all the people that all year have been praying for me out there, because I don't know how many close calls I had today where we're literally a foot away. I thought I was going to get eaten up in a couple different crashes, got through them. You know, we're certainly gaining some momentum. To come here, qualify 4th, finish 3rd, great pit stops, gain some momentum. There's a little ways to go, but we're getting there.
Top 10 in 4 of the last 5 races for Scott Sharp in this team. It's making a move, guys.
And those close calls, 7 cars crashed out of this event. There's the donuts from high above. Stay with us. We've got more coming from the Ethanol Indy 250. And the celebration continues down in Victory Lane. Let's catch up with 2 more of the strong finishers that survived this crash fest. Jackaroo.
Yeah, Marty, and they certainly deserve to be celebrating. Finishing in 5th place is Darren Manning in the ABC Supply AJ Foyt car. Now, you got the phone call from AJ in the offseason while you were having a pint back over across the pond. What are you going to tell him when you see him now with the 5th place finish?
We need more pints of beer, that's for sure. So no, it was a good weekend. You know, we stayed out of trouble. We were a bit disappointed with our qualifying position, but I think there was a lot of guys out there that were like that. And you know, it was just nice to run with Buddy all the way through the race there, and just let him bloody through at the end. That wasn't so good, was it?
Yeah. What did he do? Did he say? Did you say, mind if I'm playing through, or what?
No, I wish I was that good at golf. No, I could see the car was pushing when I ran up behind him there, and my car, you know, if I ran that extra half lane up, it was a little bit better, and then right there at the end he pushed coming out of 4, and then I just made the chop down trying to go for the small window that was there, but it kind of worked out.
I could have chopped him, but I thought, well, it's probably a good result for both of us here.
we took a little vacation last weekend together and got rid of all of our bad luck, so we did okay here today.
I'm not going to ask how they got rid of the bad luck. Let's go check in with Brianne Pedigo.
Well, finishing in 6th position is Ed Carpenter. Ed, we thought you had run out of fuel there at the end, but that's not the case. Tell us what happened.
I mean, we're not 100% sure, but they pulled the Buckeye cover off, and there was plenty of fuel in there. So it was probably a fuel pump or a fuel pump drive, because it just stopped running completely. Normally when a car runs out of fuel or ethanol, it'll start sputtering, and this just stopped. Like I hit the kill switch. So it's disappointing. You know, we had a great car. You know, we got in that big accident when Danica turned down into me. And the guys fixed his rear suspension. We only lost 1 lap and battled back and got that lap back. And, you know, we looked to have a 4th place finish in the bag, maybe a 3rd place if Scott would have slipped up at all. I was right there. But all in all, it was a good day for the Hitachi Power Tools car. Just disappointing when you think you got a better car than where you finish.
Vince?
Standing with Helio Castroneves, boy, 8th place doesn't even begin to tell the story of the day you had today. You're leading the race. You come in for a pit stop on lap 70, 71, and you spin exiting the pits. What happened?
Well, new tires seemed to be so slippery, and it was just amazing. Actually, through whole practice, we went out without a problem, and I don't know. I mean, today it seems to be the same weather, but it spun out. I didn't let the stall. I mean, I was in 30. Yeah, I thought I was in 1st. And when I let the clutch out, the car stall. Was so disappointed because, and then you have to wait for help. And I mean, there was no jump start or something in the car. But unfortunately, I let my guys down. You know, we had a good car. You can see out there we could catch everyone. But oh man, it's just a shame. But and then we got caught another. Spinning and crashing. Hey man, it was crazy today.
It was indeed. Helio Castroneves finishing 8th. Jack?
Well, Vince, as Sarah Fisher celebrates her finish in the top 10 and decides to take a look at, I think, what you wish you were able to do today, run flat out. Coming from the midgets in the sprints, you told me before this race that this reminded you of an old midget racetrack.
Yeah, it's kind of like Winchester in a midget. You know, you're wide open the whole time, and well, not all the time in a midget at Winchester, but certainly here at Iowa and in IndyCar. And you know, your car's got to be pretty dialed in, and you know, even though we finished the top 10, we're still trying to figure out what the happy medium is between push and loose. So just keep working at it.
Is it that precise now? I mean, is the knife edge between push and loose so narrow that it's difficult to find?
You know, your margins are pretty narrow nowadays, and a lot of that's because the series is so competitive that you're trying to, you know, keep your margin down to a ½ inch instead of 3 foot wide. So it's just a very competitive series, and you know, you just got to keep digging to get up there at the front.
Hey, fellas, no truth to the rumor that she's going to go to the World Outlaws. She's here in IndyCar to stay.
All right, thanks, Jack. A good run for Sarah Fisher. Look at the crowd as they make their way out of this this beautiful facility at Iowa Speedway. What a great job everybody has done. And, you know, Iowa, the 2nd most ovals in the country behind Pennsylvania. Did you know that?
I saw that stat this week. I was actually completely surprised, and I think we've seen today that the championship is wide open up to the end of the year, and Dario Franchitti, quiet, but he's getting the job done.
They love their racing. Tune in Saturday night at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN for coverage of the Richmond IndyCar Challenge presented by XM. Don't forget Tuesday, it's the series premiere of Shaq's Big Challenge on ABC at 9, 8 Central. Congratulations to Dario Franchitti, winner of the Ethanol IndyCar 250 at Iowa. For our entire ESPN crew on ABC, I'm Marty Reed. Thanks so much for joining us here at the inaugural running at Iowa Speedway. Till we meet again.